I am more behind the scenes. I don't dig in the dirt. I don't really like the outdoors all of that much. So I work behind the scenes in the lab and as a curator, so curating archaeological collections. So I started out, I graduated college. I graduated high school. I didn't do great. My high school guidance counselor said, you'll be lucky if you get into any of these schools. Fine, not a great start, but then I got into Salem State University, shout out. I was a history major. I wanted to be a teacher. I still love all of that, but God bless my husband, because I realized that isn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to take the education classes. So I was like, all right, shoot, I have a history major. What do I do from here? And I decided I was pretty good at geology. And I was like, I like rocks. This seems like a sound choice. I mean, I was like 19 at the time. So I had a geology and history double major. And I was like, well, what do I do with that? And so the clear answer was archaeology. I came to it really late, comparatively, especially to some of my grad school friends who had like come out of the womb and like decided archaeology was for them. Like I didn't know who Bruce Trigger was until I was in graduate school. So it definitely wasn't one of those things that was like a passion from my childhood, but history, especially 18th century New England history, has always been something that I came out of the womb interested in. So that's how I got here. So this is a great question, because I just got an email asking me my thoughts about school curriculums nowadays and how STEM is so important, and history and culture and all of that is kind of falling by the wayside for multiple reasons, but it is super important. I link it directly to current events today. So as a government employee, it's a little difficult for me to really run out and like voice my support for Black Lives Matter on our social media pages, right? But I have archaeology from the Boston African American site. And so I can take this archaeology, I can take the history, I can take the stories that we've learned about these people who aren't in the regular history books that we have. And I can make a connection and say, look, these people endured a lot of struggle. It's just because they were free and Black didn't mean that they lived life like everybody else. Like this is what life was like in 19th century Beacon Hill, and actually use that to trace, like to draw a line directly to systemic racism and events going on today and support, the right side of history. So this is probably like the number one most asked question that we get, right? What is the most exciting thing that you found? And I mentioned that I didn't do much field archaeology, but I have done some because you have to, right? Like, so I did field schools. I did them throughout New England. I worked in Portsmouth and Strawberry Bank. It was a really, really cool site. I found a little double twisted creamware handle. So cute. Those were all good, but honestly, the one that really sticks with me is a find from the lab. And that's where all the best finds are, because you can dig for like weeks at a time and not find anything except like some rusty chunks and some broken window glass. But in the lab, I am guaranteed to find something every single day. So the coolest thing that we've come across is gonna have to be from Saratoga. So it was the Schuyler House Archaeology, like the Schuyler sisters. And it was the Schuyler House, and it was a piece of vellum rolled up with a little bone ring on it. And my colleague Jessica is like amazing. Material culture, just like, she's the best. She's our person. We always ask her. So we were like, what on earth could it be? It's so strange. And she dug through the internet and found out it was for a carrier pigeon. And they actually took the bone ring and would like attach it to one of the main feathers. And that's how they would send messages back and forth. And so it's probably more of like a late 19th, early 20th century kind of thing. And it was really popular during the Prohibition era to send messages back and forth from Canada. So we're wondering, upstate New York, maybe some kind of Prohibition link, but not something that in a million years I would ever expect to see, or expect to really go down an internet rabbit hole about. So that's always a fun one. But I'm so lucky to work in the Northeast region. We have parks all the way from like Native American history all the way up through 20th century Maggie Walker. So I'm really lucky to see thousands and honestly at this point millions of objects come through our lab. My dog needs a pet on the head, so. And but that is always the coolest one for sure. So I think the number one thing that I want people to know about archaeology is that it gives a voice to the voiceless. So we have, I'll use Minuteman as an example, right? We have all of these white colonial men who fought. We know oodles and oodles about them and all of their descendants. We don't know as much about women. We definitely don't know nearly enough about people of color. But archaeology lets us kind of go past the biases and the racism that we see in the historical record, and we get to go through everyone's trash. Like there's nothing better than that, right? So we get to kind of take a deep dive, almost like Bridgerton, into these people's lives, but it works right in. It works right into my passion for really connecting current events and social justice issues, because these people wouldn't really have a story otherwise, like African Americans lived in Concord. Some of them fought for the colonial side, but we're not actively interpreting that history because up until we look at archaeology collections, we just don't really know what's there. So a voice to the voiceless is why I do this, why we do this.